August 17th, 2010. We're here with Lou Eckels in her A-frame behind the pot shop in her last weeks here. Thank you so much, Lou, for talking with us today.
Oh, I'm honored to be asked.
I'm expecting to learn a lot here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm Bobby Nelson here, and I've known Lou for quite a few years and Albert for probably many more, and I know that part of your life has been heavily invested in this Bayfield area through the school district, through business, and through personal friends and stuff like that. And I want to get into that in just a little while. But I'm wondering, Lou, if you just take a second and give us a little reflection of who you are, where you're from. Tell us a little bit about your mom and dad, and bring us from that period of time somewhere up to where you got into the Bayfield scene.
Okay. Well, I'm a member of a Unitarian church in Laguna Woods, California, where I live now, and I had to give them a short biography. And I told them I'm a Reformed Jewish girl from Cicero, Illinois, who went to the University of Illinois and met my Baptist husband, Robert Eckels, who was studying art, and the two of us managed to get a scholarship when we graduated from the university and spent a year in London, where he learned to be a potter, and I studied government at the London School of Economics. And then we decided that Bayfield was the place that it would be great to have a pottery shop. Actually, he started working at Northland College first, and I got a job at Bayfield School. And then we decided we wanted to live in Bayfield. So we moved here in about 1960, lived in McCarty's house across the ravine for a while, where Rick Thompson lives now. And during that time decided we'd build an A-frame, and had this built. And we've been coming here every first for summers. Bob got a job in Danville, Virginia, and we lived there for 10 years. And I got my master's at the University of North Carolina and started teaching college, teacher ed. And Bob was teaching pottery and art and design and everything else. And then that college folded and we came back here. He taught 10 years at Northland and then decided he would be a full-time potter. And that's when I started teaching at Bayfield School. Taught there for a few years. And then I went to Northland College and taught there the rest of my teaching career. And when we first came, Mary Rice's beautiful home was known as the, what was it known as?
The Night House?
Yes, the Night House. And we lived in there, unfortunately, for just a year on the ground floor and rented the upper floor to Tom Williamson, who was a social worker, worked in Ashland, and we got to be very good friends. And we lived there for a year, and then we went to Danville, Virginia for 10 years and came back here summers and built the A-frame to live in. And then the college that we were teaching in Virginia closed, and I got a job in Bayfield School to teach fourth grade, and Bob taught at Northland for a while part-time, and then we decided he would just run the pottery full-time, and I would have the benefits and health insurance and all that jazz, and so we've been here ever since.
I want the world to get to know Bob a little bit in this interview too. This is primarily an interview about yourself, but I think the two of you run hand in hand for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Bob, his personality. Give us some hints about his idiosyncrasies and the fun and things about him. Even stick in there something that shouldn't be public knowledge.
Okay. When I met Bob on a blind date at the University of Illinois, where he was a member of an art fraternity. And I had a date with someone else in his fraternity, and when he found out the other person found out my name was Ginsburg, he decided he didn't want to go out with a Jewish girl. And Bob thought that was rotten, so we arranged to have a date, and it was love at first sight, and so we've been together ever since until Bob died, sadly. But his background was very conservative Baptist, but early on, he discovered that he loved art. And so, though we started out at a junior college in Chicago, he went on to the University of Illinois and there became a fine arts major, painting and sculpture. And then when we decided to go to London, I got a Fulbright at the time.
It's a Fulbright scholarship.
Yes, to study at the London School of Economics. And Bob got a scholarship to the Central School of Arts and Crafts, where he was first introduced to pottery. And he thought he was a genius because the first time he was on the potter's wheel, everybody was gazing around, looking at him as he threw a pot. And he thought, oh my God, I must be good. And what they were amazed at, he had very hairy arms. And you know, you've got to throw with a lot of water.
Oh.
And all the hair kind of made the water go the way it was supposed to. But that encouraged him at the beginning, and he decided he loved pottery beyond anything else. So when we got back from England, we came back here and opened up the pot shop.
I always remember Bob as really gregarious, very bright, and just full of fun. He never struck me as being too conservative. I always thought maybe he was kind of more liberal based in his life. But tell me a little bit about that. Is he? I remember as gregarious and just full of fun.
Oh, he was, and his eyes had that twinkle. You know that he was full of fun, and came from a very conservative Baptist family. But beyond that, he was able to become, we called ourselves Universalists, so marrying a Jewish girl came naturally to him.
Tell us what your version of the word universalism means.
We think that all people are born under one supreme being, if you will, if you believe in God, and that we're all brothers and sisters, and that this world is, if we're ever going to have real happiness on earth, we all have to love one another and blur all the distinctions among us. And we both believe that with all our hearts. And I think our children believe that now.
Okay.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
what was the year that you guys first came to Bayfield? Roughly.
In the shop was open in 60, and we lived in Ashland for a while. But I think it was around 60. Would you believe I don't remember? Dee Dee probably remembers. I know we lived at McCarty's barn for a year or so. And then we lived in Mary's for a year. And then we went to Virginia, but came back summers. And then came back year-round in 10 years. And so that must have been in 1960, I guess. The dates are hazy. I'm 81, and even when I was young and theoretically bright, I didn't remember dates, so forgive me.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm interested in knowing a little bit about? What was it like growing up as a young Jewish girl in Cicero? What was it like in those days?
Well, I was in a class of 700 at J. Sterling Morton High School in Cicero, Illinois. And in my class of 700, there were 2 Jews, I being among them. But I had a wonderful time. I was into everything and ended up the editor of the paper and all of this jazz. Never had any problems. Except once I know I had a crush on Eugene Springer. He was in drama with me. I've always been a ham, and I was in drama. And he asked me out, and I was just happy as could be. But one day in the cafeteria, some of his buddies saw us together, and they yelled out loud, "Hey, Gene, is that your Jew baby?"
Oh boy.
And he, of course, was horrified. And I don't think we ever did go out after that. But other than that, I loved my high school experience. And right after that, I went to Roosevelt College, which had been recently begun by Marshall Field in downtown Chicago. And that was all minorities, Jewish students and blacks primarily, with a few WASPs, one of whom, Raymond Clevenger, I had a great crush on. But then my mother decided I would be a communist or marry a black person if I stayed at Roosevelt. So she sent me off to the University of Illinois. And that's where I met Bob, so I was really happy that she had.
What did you do for fun as a young child in Cicero? Did you ride bikes and roller skate or?
Never had a bike. Played O'Larry, I remember that. Not much, actually. We lived on top of a linoleum store, and I remember playing 1, 2, 3 O'Larry and talking about the linoleum store. But no, it was not a typical suburban upbringing. And I had a couple of rowdy friends, and I remember sitting on a porch and yelling. And my life was all centered around school. I loved school, and I had a good social life in school, but nothing at home. And then I did go to a Reformed temple in west side of Chicago, and they became my friends. Because in those days, I mean, I wanted to be friends with everybody, but non-Jews didn't date Jewish girls very much in those days. So if I was going to have a social life, I needed to go to the temple, and I did. And then I went to Illinois and met Bob, and the rest is history.
Do you have any Ginsburg brothers and sisters at all? Or?
Yes, I have 2 sisters. And one married a lawyer who died very young, and then she remarried, had 2 children. And then my second sister, she was 10 years older than I, and then I have a sister 8 years older than I, who married a man who was in the restaurant business. And they had 3 children and had a good life, were traditionally Jewish, but, and so I learned a lot from them. And she is still alive. Her husband died a while ago. She lives in, both sisters now. Would you believe I'm 81 and they're 89 and 91 and they're still alive too. Both live in Chicago.
You've got good genes then.
Apparently.
How about your mom and dad? What were they about? Let me tell you, were they immigrants from
Yes.
Poland or Germany? Or?
Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
They were both Bohawks from Czechoslovakia. My father studied medicine in Prague before he came here.
Okay.
But he got here and he was a playboy, and he didn't have anyone really to guide him or to. It was before World War I, and there were problems going on at that time for Jews in Bohemia. And so he went into business, and he was a terrible businessman and was never very happy at that. And my mom she had gone to school only until about the 8th grade. And so she was totally uneducated. But she was a very good, kind, giving woman. They didn't have a very good life, though, because their worlds were so far apart. But I adored them, and stayed home until I went to college, and, kept in touch until they both died in their late 70s. So, yeah, and my sisters, as I said, are still alive, both in Chicago now.
Do you communicate much with them at all? Or?
Yeah, I call them 2 or 3 times a week. We talk together all the time, so that's good.
When you first got to Bayfield, what was it like in the Bayfield school?
Well, Bayfield just blew our minds. It's so beautiful here. And I had experience teaching elementary school and had a very supportive supervisor. And I thought, wow, and I believe in democratic discipline and so on, letting the kids have a say in what's going on. And I thought, this will be great. I was teaching 4th grade. Well, the kids were wild. They never had a so-called democratic teacher. They'd had teachers who used corporal punishment when they could get away with it, or were just very strict. Some who they loved, but with whom they really had no freedom as in a democratic atmosphere. So I had a really hard time. The first year was
not a
hell.
real good fit.
Second year, I was getting the idea, and I thought, I can do this. I can come to a compromise between what the kids are ready for and my philosophy of education. And then I got an opportunity to go to Northland. So if, the old saw, if you can do, if you can't teach, if you can't teach teachers. So that was me. I went to Northland College, and eventually became head of the education department and taught teachers for about 30 years, which was a wonderful job, and I loved it.
It was somebody you could relate to, and they were had a little bit more of a democratic philosophy at Northland too, I imagine. So
Yeah, but it was, the head of the department who set the policy, really. And so I think my kids, many of them didn't agree with me and had to do what their cooperating teachers, the teachers with whom they taught in the schools. But I think we had some really good teachers come out of it. And
what was your philosophy when you taught like that? Just pure democratic philosophy, or where would they come into a disagreement with you?
Well, my idea was that kids had to learn to be self-disciplined. And so I'd give them the opportunity to make rules for the classroom and to have some share in deciding when we would do what during the week. That is, there were certain things they had to do, and there was definitely a level of order that had to be maintained in the classroom. But beyond that, I wanted them to be free to learn how to control their own selves. And that did not go with most of the other teachers at Bayfield School at that time.
What about at Northland? Was that acceptable there?
Yes, well, of course, I was head of the department.
I see. You got to set the philosophy.
I said it. I don't know. Yeah, Don Keekler was there before me, and I've forgotten the name of the other person. And I never really knew what their philosophies were. But when I went there, that was my philosophy.
So in the Bayfield schools around you, was Cora Bellinger still there?
Yes, she was still there. And she was a lovely teacher, as I
Was she?
recall. Yeah, she was. She was a traditional, old-fashioned teacher, but loved the kids, and I don't recall that she ever had to use corporal punishment on anyone.
She had that voice that
Yeah.
always carried like, so do you remember her?
I don't remember that. I mean, I was never in her class. I just knew her as a colleague.
Adelia Hanson, was she still in?
Yep, she was still there. And Gary Sarver, he was one of the disciplinarians. Dan Brown.
Okay.
Dan was a very good teacher. Not a democratic teacher, but he was kind, and I think the kids in his class really had a good time and loved him and learned a lot. So I don't remember the names of any of the
Probably
others.
Neil Harmon was there.
Yes, Neil was there. He was more of a disciplinarian.
And marvelous Marv Pavela.
Oh yes, Marv was there. In fact, I took over Marv's class, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when you filled in.
Right, I believe so. And I was, as I say, the second year I had finally learned how to control the kids and still try to maintain my own philosophy of democratic discipline when I got the call to Northland. And Bob said, "You take it." So I did.
Yeah, it was a step up from you.
What brought you guys to Bayfield in the first place? How'd you hear about it?
How did we hear about Bayfield? I think it's probably Northland College. Northland was the only place where there was an opening for an art teacher. You know, art teachers like, there's an old song about art teachers like something or a dime a dozen. And Bob had a very hard, he had a major in painting and sculpture and pottery. In those days, most colleges didn't teach pottery. So when he had an opportunity to teach here, we had hoped to settle in the Southwest where it was warm and dry, but then we settled here and we loved it. We really loved our time in Bayfield.
One of the fun things I remember, you guys got a nice little business going, selling pots up the, probably hundreds of thousands of pots in your life. But I know one of the things you guys really brought this community was bringing in young. Bob would act as a tutor, and you'd bring in new potters and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about how you got into bringing the youth into the teaching program here in Bayfield and that type of thing.
Well, when we were in England, we went to visit Bernard Leach, who was a world-famous potter at that time. And Leach had a system of apprenticeships, and he would bring in young people to learn from him in the studio. And Bob thought, that sounds like a good way to initiate young people into my art. And so when we opened the pottery, that's what he decided to do. At first, our shop was in Ashland. where the Marine Restaurant now is.
Okay.
And then the owner of the property on which the shop was located decided he needed the land, and so he broke our lease and we had to move. And we moved the pottery bodily from Ashland. We put it on we didn't, had it put on a roller and brought to Bayfield. And a funny story is Carlin Holman, who was a very famous artist in Washburn and started out as a potter, was Bob's first apprentice.
Really?
And we knew her mother, and her mother tells the famous story that she was working in a coffee shop, and one day she looked up and there was the pot shop rolling down the street. You know, they had picked up the building, and she nearly dropped the coffee she was serving.
Is this building that's here the original pot shop then?
The center of the building is the original building,
Okay.
but then it's been added on both ends.
Interesting.
So,
I
yeah,
forgot. I
it
can't
is.
remember that. Don't you bring it up? But
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
It was a very small shop.
Who did you buy this piece of property from?
McCarty,
So Bill McCarty owned it
Yeah.
at the time,
he did.
and
He
you've got 4 acres here.
Yes, we would have, 4 acres, I think. Most of the acreage is on the old military road
You know, a
side.
lot of ravine there too.
Yeah. Right, and, now when we're trying to sell this house and, the land in back, and so far we have not had many.
When you first got into the pottery business, did you have any sales? Was the first year's lean, or did you just
$100 days were cause for celebration. Bob and Glenn Nelson from University of Minnesota Duluth, who was his partner for the first 3 years, would go out and have martinis at the Marine Restaurant next door if they hit $100.
What was that?
So that was a big day. Ordinarily, and things were very inexpensive. Nobody had heard of selling pottery to the public, handmade pottery. So we really, other than Abe Cone down in the central part of the state on Lake Michigan, I forget the name of the area, there were no other studio potters in Wisconsin.
So there was just a pair of you potters
Right.
around 1960
Right.
in Wisconsin then,
Right.
and Bob being one of them.
Yeah, and Abe Cone was in Door County,
Oh, Door County.
and then we were here, so that was a big distance.
Were you good friends of Abe's then? And
We weren't good friends. We admired him and knew him and learned from him because he had his pottery first.
he was kind of the mentor and the groundbreaker in this.
Well, yeah, not formally, but
Yeah.
Glenn and Bob wanted a studio like Abe's, and that's what they established here. And then Glenn got married 3 years later, and his wife, Edie Nelson, who had been head of the American Crafts Council, a national organization of artists, moved with him to Duluth, where he was from, and they started their own pot shop and art gallery. And so then Bob did it on his own. And from then on, apprentices were even more important. And of course, our children gradually became involved also.
Did they fall into the apprentice program, or did you guys, Bob, just say, okay, you kids, you're down here tonight till midnight firing pots and
Yeah.
stuff, or
The
they brought the
latter.
hard way?
The latter, right.
Yeah.
Though my sons were musicians from a very early age, and Bob was really interested in their music careers. So,
Can you give us their names?
yeah, Steve and Jeff.
Okay.
Stephen is the oldest. Jeff is 2 years younger than he, and then Dee Dee is our baby girl, who was a year younger than Jeff.
Okay.
And Dee Dee is the potter now.
Yeah.
And she's carrying on her dad's tradition.
Sure.
So we're really grateful to her.
So you had those young rascals running around the house, and all of a sudden, either Bob said, you guys need more to do, and I'm going to put you either on a cello or I'm going to put you on a spinning wheel here. Tell us a little bit about the kids growing up in this house.
Well, we had funny times. We have a picture of them mixing clay. We used to mix our clay outside in a pug mill, and we have a picture of Steve and Jeff in shorts, and they made themselves clay boobs, and they're standing there mixing clay outside. But they did all the dirty work and distributed brochures. Our main way of advertising those days was to have a good brochure describing our shop, and we would distribute it not only in the Bayfield area, but all along this region.
Sure.
And the kids did the local distribution, and then I would drive all over in the region to resorts and things, hoping that people would spend a day coming to Bayfield.
Did you do traveling shows at all? Did you get involved in the art
Not
fairs?
very many, no. No, Bob, knew that game, and he really was not interested in that. And that's why he wanted a shop of his own where he could stay put.
A lot of work and little profit in traveling all over.
Oh,
the place.
definitely.
Yeah.
Not that running a pottery isn't a lot of work, but it was Bob's passion. And he wouldn't have done anything. Well, he would have if he'd have had to. But he always felt grateful that he had the opportunity to do what he loved. And that became our byword, actually, for our lives and our children's lives. And always encourage them, no matter what you decide to do, be sure it's something you love. Then it isn't work. Then it's play and
Simple as that.
make a living and have fun while you're doing it. So, yeah.
Now, you'd mentioned going to Virginia for 10 years. What was the impetus for that?
We had a job at Stratford College in Danville, Virginia. And it had been a woman's college. And when we got there, they were trying to make it co-ed. And there was an art department. Paul Bond was the head of it at the time. He was a painter. And they wanted Bob to do three-dimensional, so he taught sculpture and pottery at Stratford. And it was a wonderful, beautiful campus. And unfortunately, we got there, the years are hazy. But whenever we got there, slowly things in colleges began to be very bad. There was a period in recent history where the enrollment was down and colleges were having great financial problems. And so within 10 years, Stratford closed its doors.
Oh.
And so Bob looked everywhere for another teaching job. And the only ones he was offered at the time were at junior colleges. And as we look back, we thought it was stupid that we didn't take one of those. But we thought, we can't teach in a junior college after working, at a college. And that's when he decided to do the pottery. And yet, in many ways, we're glad we did, because that was an opportunity that he just loved. And he was so happy doing what he was doing all his life. And then I got a very good job at Northland, so couldn't have asked for anything better.
What town was Stratford College in?
It was in Danville, Virginia,
Okay.
where Dan River Mills was. I don't know if it's still there or not. And when we came to Danville the first time, the Dan River was green and red. They were still dumping the excess dye into the river. So you know how long ago that was. And I wish I could remember the year. Must have been 1970, I guess, around that time.
Well, it was before the Clean Water Act.
Right.
That was in 72.
Right, so that about does it. Thank you. Yeah, but we liked Danville, and my kids had never had, they had grown up with Indian students, and so that was great. And here they had an opportunity to know many black students, and that was terrific. I was glad we were there, and it was during integration. So for the first time, the black students were coming into their schools, and white students were going into black schools. And my children were there for that whole transition, and really learned that people were people no matter what the color of their skin, and learned how to get along with everybody, and made us very pleased to be there at that time.
Tell us a little bit about your musician children, what they're up to.
Yeah, well, Bob always said he didn't have a lawyer or a doctor or a merchant or a chief in the bunch. But Dee Dee, of course, bless her, took over her father's art, and she's our potter and artist and owner of the pot shop now.
And I'm sure she's just as talented as Bob was, too.
Well, she is. I think she is. In fact, she may be more so, because she stood on Bob's shoulders. He had to start from scratch, and she had a head start. So she's very talented young woman. And the boys Bob got a guitar when our sons were 14 and 12. And he was not very talented, but he loved strumming. And he gave it to Steve, and Steve caught on immediately and loved it and went on. And then they said, well, Dad, we need a bass. So then Bob got Jeff a bass. And the two of them became the Eckels brothers. And they played with two black brothers, the Wiley brothers, who sang and played keyboard. And they were the checkerboard squares in Virginia for a while. Or, no, that's the name I wanted for them. They were the Sensational Souls.
Oh.
And would play mostly in black clubs. And Bob and I would have to go along to chaperone because Jeff was only 12 at the time. But they had a wonderful experience, and they decided they wanted music as their careers. So Stephen first went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and then Jeff followed him there. And then while Jeff finished Berklee, Steve went to New England Conservatory. And then Jeff went back to University of Wisconsin-Madison for a master's. And then Steve came to Northland College, because that's where I was teaching at the time, and got a degree in teacher ed. And he's an 8th grade guitar teacher, teaches only guitar in Kalispell, Montana, and absolutely loves it. And he was a real geek in high school, never had too many friends. So he loves the high school kids, and they really like him as a teacher. And Jeff never thought he wanted to teach, but he happened to get opportunities to go to graduate school at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, and now he almost finished a PhD, which he never wanted, but he's got a job next fall. Actually, he's there now at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he's starting as a teacher in University of Nebraska.
I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't one of the boys attend the Juilliard school too?
No.
Yeah.
No, that would have been wonderful.
I
But
thought
they were
one of
not.
those guys were out there. Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful school. Mostly classical people are there, though.
Oh.
And I'm not sure they have guitars, and if they do, it would be all classical. And of course, the Eckels brothers initially were jazz and folk. And then Steve has gotten into classical, and so has Jeff on the bass. But that's a compliment. Thank you for thinking that's where they went. That's a fabulous school.
I wanted to also bring up that I remember listening to, I think, was it Jeff that was on National Public Radio?
Right, on What Do You Know?
Yeah.
With Michael Feldman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great job. And the piano player, Johnny Tulane, is still there. But Jeff was ambitious and hoped that Johnny would take gigs with him in the Madison area. And Johnny was reluctant. So eventually the two of them split and Jeff went on. Because he wanted to play everywhere. Though Jeff loved that gig. And
Yeah,
it's
those
an
guys
easy
actually
gig.
get paid for that.
Oh, heavens, yes.
I didn't know if they were just, I don't know how that whole system worked.
No, they get paid well, and Jeff would love to have that job to this day. But it all happened for the best, because
Sure.
now he has, or will have shortly, his doctorate, and is now free to go wherever he wants. And if he still wants to freelance, which I predict is what he'll do eventually again, he can do that too. So,
The boys must be pushing 50 years old now, aren't they?
Jeff is 50. Dee Dee's 52, Jeff is 53, and Stephen's 55.
Okay.
And of course, I'm 60.
Yeah, you look younger than your
Right.
children. Let me put it to
Yeah.
you that way.
Right. Yeah, and they're on their way. Dee Dee was married to Randy Anderson, and they had an amicable parting, and Randy is here working for Wild Rice, and they see each other all the time. And Randy's daughter, Chessa, is going to be a biologist, and that's a refreshing change in our family.
Yeah, that's a switch there, isn't it?
Right, and she's in Peru now, studying herbs and things for holistic medicine,
Oh, I see, yeah.
which is great. And Tyler, Julie Eckels' son, Julie retired recently from Bayfield School.
Yeah, I signed her papers, actually, so.
Right. But Tyler is working in the Bayfield area. He wants to go into sustainable agriculture.
Now his father is Jeff.
No, his father is
Steve. Okay.
His father is Steve. And he worked on a sustainable farm in Canada, not too far from Kalispell, Montana, where Steve lives now. But that was for a relatively short period of time. So Tyler is a really great young man. And I have no doubt that he'll ultimately be doing what he loves to do. But now for the summer, he's working very hard at Maggie's and at the restaurant on the highway belonging to Renee Holman.
Time out.
Time out.
Good
Yeah.
time.
Good time.
Good time.
Good time. Yeah. So, right. And I have 2 little grandkids who are still in Denton, Texas with their mom. So
Oh, okay.
they're 8 and 4.
John, you got throw a curveball to her here?
Yeah.
She's hitting everything we're throwing at her pretty hard today. That's a
Well,
baseball metaphor.
yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your life here in Bayfield and your involvement with the community.
Yeah, oh, it's been good. Of course, when I taught, that was all consuming. And I'm not a very efficient preparer, so during the years I was commuting to Ashland, I had little time for any extracurricular activities in town. But I always attended all the art and music activities. I'm afraid I didn't contribute very much to any of the civic organizations.
You were part of the Bayfield Heritage Association.
Yes, I
that
did.
group of people for quite a while.
And actually, I did do something good there. I was among those who helped start the Fountain Garden Park.
Oh, really? Tell us a little bit about that, how that all came together.
Well, that was I think it belonged to the city and was not maintained, and it was full of weeds and unattractive for people coming into Bayfield. So Mary Rice bought it and donated it to the Heritage Foundation. And I was the first person to take it over and see that the mowing was done. And I didn't actually do any of the gardening, having been a city girl without any experience, though I certainly could have learned. But I did take care of that for a number of years in terms of watering and getting people to work on it. And now I think it's a beautiful park.
Oh, it's beautiful.
My dog and I walk there at least twice a day.
Do you you recall who was a part of your startup teams helping you out down there?
Were you?
No.
No.
Who'd you have help you fix that park up to begin with? Who were some of the ladies?
You know, I don't remember. Maybe your dad was involved.
You could have been, yeah.
I think maybe your dad was involved, but I've never been one for details, and I'm sorry that I
Don't
can't
worry
give
about
you
that.
that.
So,
I think the records may be someplace in the heritage
Sure, I'm sure
notes
they are.
about the park.
good.
Right. We were also here, by the way, when Mary and Jerry first came and opened the Rittenhouse. And, everybody wondered, now can a restaurant like that make it? And Bob and I were among the first who thought, wow, what a great addition to this community. And, I'm so happy that we have the Rittenhouse.
Were you? Who were some of your friends in town? I imagine Mary and Jerry were, and
People I respect and know, but my close friends were Kitty Hartnett
sure.
and Beverly Yench when she lived here. She, of course, now moved to Washburn, and Kitty lives in St. Paul. And that's about it. For the 10 years that we lived here year-round, I was teaching and never had a whole lot of time, and my children were still around.
You guys weren't social butterflies.
No, didn't have time.
Yeah.
And then, and since I've been old and back, most of my friends are, I didn't have that many, but they're not around anymore.
The ones you had were high quality. Put it
Oh,
that way.
definitely, for sure.
Yeah, Bev Young, she's a real peach, and
She is
and
terrific.
Kitty and Tim were wonderful. And
Oh, they were. And Kitty, of course, is still hanging in there.
Is she in your age bracket then?
She's a few years older, actually, so she must be 85 by this time.
And
Can you
Bev just
believe?
turned 90.
90. Yeah, he's 90.
I know they had a big party for her daughters and her husband are
Right.
very good friends of mine from the
Oh,
DC area. So
Right.
I knew they were
Yeah.
back for that big shindig. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bev still comes to just about every event at BHA. She loves history.
Yeah, she does. She's
Yeah.
a very brilliant woman.
Yeah,
She's
Sand Islander,
Right.
that group of people. So
Yeah. As I say, for a lot of years I was busy working outside of the home at the college. And then since I've been retired, I've been here mostly in the summer. And my friends have moved on.
what would you do for recreation? Were you
In those days?
or even recently? Are you into what would you do for the fun?
Well, I walk. I walk a lot. And now my doggy keeps me walking at least 3 times a day. But I went to, I was an attender, and I don't like that. I like to be involved in doing things. But I haven't. During the time I was teaching, I didn't have the time. And now, since I'm only here for a few months, I'm sure there were good things I could do. And for a while, I volunteered at CORE.
Oh yeah,
Because I think that's
great
a great
organization.
Yeah, I agree. But other than that, whenever there's a concert or anything else, I try to go.
Well, I think I remember you coming down and helping out at BHA too.
Right.
As
Yeah.
a docent down there.
Yeah.
In the past.
I
know
did.
that.
I did. And I enjoyed doing that because I think the museum is terrific.
Yeah.
And the people who run it now have done a wonderful job, and I want to come to your lecture tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow is the one I believe from Mary Carlson is doing the Royce Point lecture on the
right.
lumber mills, but
Okay.
I'm going to be doing one here pretty quick on the fish camps of the islands. I'm going to have
That's
to
right.
fly you
I
back
said that.
from California and give you a front row seat.
Or photo record it,
Yeah,
and I'll
send a
see it next
DVD,
summer.
Yeah,
Right.
sounds great.
Right. Well, I'm so thrilled that you're so active, Bobby, because as one of the really old settler families, it's terrific that you're as involved as you are and doing all the things that you do.
You know, I think you're put on earth for some things. Sometimes it's just not to make money. You gotta,
Right.
you gotta do what's best, I guess. So.
Right. Right. You got to do what you love,
Yeah, actually, it's a lot
and
of fun.
that's what where you get the most back in return for.
And probably like music to your kids, history is to me.
Yeah. Of course, I was a teacher of government. That was what I was into. And so I don't do as much in that field as I'd like. So when I go to California, I'm involved in all the political things. They have all
Are
kinds
you-
of clubs there now
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
I do.
So, what are you, a social democrat or are you a conservative Republican or?
The former.
Ah,
In fact, I'm a socialist. I'm a diehard socialist.
uh-huh.
But I've given up that this country will ever see the light and go in that direction. But I just hope that it doesn't revert to the right, which it probably will.
It's leaning a little bit
Right.
that way at times.
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
You ever read the books about this, that movement in Milwaukee and stuff like that, the Burger family and.
I don't think so. What is
Yeah.
that?
I can't remember it now. I'll have to give you the book if you want to
Oh,
read it.
I'd like that.
It's from 1899 to 1927, letters written from Mr. Berger to Meta Berger, who,
Yeah.
and he was a socialist down there. in
Yeah,
that
oh,
area.
I should know that, but I don't. And this has just been my inner feelings that this would be a better world if what we have was distributed more equitably. And I think it would be in a socialist economy, but who knows?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
never know.
Did those ideas come out of your family or out of your education experiences?
Out of my education and out of my gut, I had a high school teacher as a sophomore in high school who first turned me on to the importance of using a democratic government to make this a better place, including more equitable in terms of economics. And then I went to Roosevelt College, which was a very, would be called left-wing college, and reinforced all my socialist tendencies. And then I went to the London School of Economics, which was, representative of England when it went socialism. So, no, I came to it on my own. And I think, I'm a Jew, but Bob was a Christian, and bless Bob, he would always say, Lou is the best Christian I know, by which he meant, I like the ethics of Jesus Christ, and I think we all need to be more giving and sharing and doing good for others, and I call that socialism, and maybe it has no connection. I don't know.
But maybe it does.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Now at Northland, can you talk a little bit more in detail about your life at Northland?
That was the best.
Who were the presidents that you worked under?
Malcolm Glenn. And he's a wonderful, interesting man. And I think he did a lot of good things for Northland College. I really do. I think Northland grew and flourished under Malcolm's regime. And I really don't know much about them. And I think the environmental program was a real forerunner and great.
The Sigurd Olson Environmental
Yes,
Institute.
yes. And of course, they gave me free reign in the education department. I went there as just a part-time teacher, and then the two men PhDs who were ahead of me both got out, resigned. And so I became head of the department. And so I had the opportunity to make it the kind of department that I really wanted. And that meant shaping the students, making sure that students who came into teacher education really loved teaching, loved children, and wanted to be teachers, but were also top students. There's a old saw again that thinks that people who teach really aren't achievers. And I tried to prove that wrong, because our teachers have to be the most scholarly, the smartest, but also those who love children and want to do something for this generation and the next.
They need to be able, I often say this, they need to find the genius in each student.
Right. A
That's
good
their
way.
job.
That's exactly it. And we've had a number of good teachers in Bayfield. So, and of course I know nothing about the school now, but I presume that it's still, do you still work at the school, Bonnie?
No, I dropped off the presidency type of thing, and this is my ninth year.
Wow.
Next April, so I decided that's it for me.
Yeah.
But
You've paid your dues, I think.
yeah, and worked very hard there.
Yeah.
So did the best we can for the children. I always put the children first.
Right,
in the
for
thinking,
sure.
So I can
Right.
honestly say that.
Yeah. But I feel very lucky to have been a teacher, to have gone in that direction. My first vocational love, I think I've said, was to be a journalist, because I like to write. But I've written a lot. I wrote a lot of the publicity for the pottery. And any organization I've been in, I did the publicity.
Did you ever write a book or anything like that, or
No,
did you get around to that?
No, I've written a lot of poetry, and my family says, Mom, you've got to put all those together and publish it.
Sure.
But I haven't. I've not, and I probably won't. But if my children think there's anything worthwhile in there, they can do it after I'm gone. So,
It's not that hard to put it together. and have
no,
it published.
I know.
It just
And actually, I have all my writings in California now.
oh.
And maybe this will be the year I get them out. And
All
start
you have to
working
do
on
with that is get somebody that can sit and type at a computer and store it in Word, and then just go out and hire somebody to help you self-publish. That's all you have to do. And you say, here's my poetry. It's written and typed. Can you put it into a format for me? And then we'll select a company to have it published. It's as simple as that.
That sounds
This
good.
is a lot different than it was back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And that's
Yeah,
what I do
well.
with my books.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see.
I'll let you chew on that a little bit. I'll
Right.
give you something to do this
Right.
fall.
Right.
You plan to come back to Bayfield?
Only as a short-term visitor. I will not come back and live here again. The trip is really too hard for me, and I told my children if they want me to come, they have to pick me up in California and bring me and then take me back. So this hill is really a killer. I'll always have a dog. And walking up that hill, and it probably keeps me in good shape.
It does.
So I shouldn't complain, but it's tiring. So my plan is to stay in California, but who knows? I wish my kids would, some of them would move to California, but they'd love to visit. So each of them comes at least once a year.
Yeah, they got their own lives, and it's
Right.
tough for them to flit around too. So.
Right, for sure. I'm the one who should do the flittering, but the traveling is a drag.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, Bob and I used to drive, and we would take 5 days, and that was fun because we'd stop and do tourist things, you know, and enjoy ourselves. But flying is hard for me, and so
Yeah, it takes a lot out of you.
I'm just anxious to get this trip over with and settle down back in California.
Good.
But I'll miss Bayfield. It is one of the most beautiful towns I've ever lived in.
I hope you'll remember us guys and stuff like that too as you go down the road too. Have fond memories.
And some of the best people I've ever met and lived with. And the fact that you think I ought to be interviewed, that's, as I say, I'm very honored to have been interviewed, and I thank you very much for
Well, like we say, you've played a major role in this community
Yeah.
for over 50 years. You've been around here hanging out and doing important
that I
things.
have.
Doing important things, teaching and business and raising children. All those things are major achievements in a lifetime, and you know that's what we do. We note those people that commit themselves.
Lou, I was out of town, but I missed the 50th anniversary party.
That was great.
Tell us a little bit about that day. Well, it was just last month, right?
Right, and the plan was to get all our past apprentices to come. People who worked in the pottery over the course of 50 years. And many did come. And Dee Dee does have a record of that. And Barbie Brown is working on an article about that and about the pottery directly. So you might want to talk to her. But it was a lot of fun. And people really enjoyed it. And Dee Dee gave a wonderful speech summing up the history of the pottery. And that she didn't write it down. She's one of those extemporaneous speakers. And I said, Dee Dee, remember what you said and write it. But she didn't, so. But it was very good. And, you know, I think the pottery, other than Mr. Black, who was a painter and lived in the house right that away, Bob was the first artist right in this area. And bringing his apprentices, and then people like Hilda Reynolds started her shop. And then a whole series of other art people moved to the area. And I think he was instrumental.
There were very few
attracting them.
before Bob that I can recall.
John Black.
John Black.
I don't think there were any others.
Another name I'll bring up, and I don't know exactly when, but it was Bessie Nurse.
Now, who nurse?
Bessie?
Betsy. Was she Holly's daughter?
No, Bessie was the daughter of Harvey Nurse.
Okay.
And she would have been here about the time that John Black arrived in Bayfield.
Okay, then she was definitely before us too. I didn't know her, and I don't know.
Yeah, that would be in the period of 1908.
Oh heavens, yeah.
Somewhere, she's got some stuff out there, yeah.
She was a painter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty decent too.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure there have been many people along the way.
Yeah, and I just don't know. Other artists that were skilled musicians were like Florence Scovel and that bunch.
And those names don't strike a note with me.
Yeah, that was way before your time. But. There's one name you brought up earlier. Now, and I'm thinking to myself, it was 1966. That's when you were probably teaching here, and you brought up the name Tom Williamson because he taught English, and I was in a play with that guy, and he was quite a guy. Is he still around, or?
He is. He lives in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh.
And he adopted a son when he was 65, and the boy was an adolescent, like 10 or 11. And he's devoted himself to being a good father. And he tutored at a school for wayward kids in Richmond, and has done a lot of good things.
Do you ever talk to him at all, or?
Yes, I call him once every 6 months to make sure he's still alive.
Just tell him that Bob Nelson said hello.
I will.
And pretty much this whole gang that was in the Midsummer's Night Dream, we were in that play with him.
In the pavilion?
No, it was at the high school on the stage.
Oh, wow.
And so we were probably absolutely the worst cast we could ever put together.
Well, that was before my time because I went to see all the plays. and
Well,
I
that was in
remember that.
1966 when I was a junior. And he was teaching up here. He filled in at, that was before Marion Larson came, but just after Mrs. Langhammer left. So he kind of filled that niche.
Well, you were probably in Virginia then,
Yes.
during that
Yeah.
Thank
period.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, during the 60s.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, he was here, so I want, you know, and
So
I
he-
didn't.
What did he do? He was a teacher here at the
he was a social worker.
social worker.
He was a social worker and a nut.
He's
and
a good
very
guy.
unconventional. He was the kindest man I've ever known. But he, you know, he was very unconventional and did not follow the
I had him as
traditional thing.
in English, and this is his wit. He came to school one day and he was just chuckling. Okay, and he brought this book, and it's one of these little Joey See Poor Daddy type of books, and it's one of those things where he said in there, the first picture is See Daddy, the little kid looking at Daddy, and all of a sudden says the next picture says See Daddy's long hair. And see Daddy sleeping, see Daddy, poor Daddy, doesn't have money for a haircut. Next picture says, see the scissors. That's the type of fun, you know, that I remember that as a true story of Tom Williamson. And we just roared when I wonder if he still got that book, I bet he does.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So long as I know, he is still alive and well. He was here 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, it'd be fun. Just say hi to him. If you
I
can
will.
recall that, just say, but his whole cast from that super cast he put together.
Right.
For Midsummer's Night Dream, wishes
Okay.
him well.
Midsummer Night's Me. And did you know Beverly Holmes? She was a good friend of mine. She was a friend of Tom's and came here after Tom was here. And I got to
remember
know her very well. And she's still kicking. She's
Is
also
that
in
Kendall
Virginia.
Holmes' mother?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And she was here, I understand, earlier this year, but I missed her.
Yeah, I didn't know her so very well.
A
That period of
very
time.
remarkable woman.
Is she?
She has narcolepsy, which is a disease that causes people to fall asleep at inappropriate times. But despite that, she is extremely smart and has done some wonderful things.
What did she do here? What was she doing?
She taught for a while at the Catholic school
Uh-huh.
and then had a series of other jobs of various kinds. I don't know, I think she tried to get into the public schools, but she was an art teacher, that's what it was. And they had sufficient art teachers, so. But she's still alive and doing good things on the East Coast,
Yeah, very.
in Norfolk, Virginia, or near Norfolk. So.
Now, Lou, you've seen a lot of changes in Bayfield. Could you talk a little bit about how Bayfield has changed over the years since you first came here in, let's say it was 1960?
In the number of people who know about it and come as tourists. When we first came, well, I remember I belonged to the League of Women Voters in Ashland, Wisconsin, when we lived in Ashland I think that was probably before the pot shop. But we had a dinner for the League scheduled for the Bayfield Inn, and right before we were scheduled to come, the inn burned down. That's my earliest memory of Bayfield. And then since that time, of course, the inn was rebuilt and more touristy kind of things have come into the area. The candy shop came, which was great. And of course, I think the boats and so on took on greater presence and
The
more
marinas
people
and-
started doing that. And the connection with Madeline Island and so on. Many, many more tourists in the summertime.
Than in the old days. There.
Yes, yes. This was a community for the people who lived here. And
Yeah, it was a working class community
Right.
in those days. Now it's a commuter community, and it's basically pretty wealthy.
yeah, you can't afford to live in Bayfield now. And, to find a place to live because there are rich people from out of town come and live here in the summer or whenever.
In those days, you could have given property away just about.
And don't you wish we had taken some when they were doing
Yeah,
it?
but only if only.
Right, right. But it's been a great place to live. It was a good place for my children to grow up partially, and I'm grateful that I've been a part of this community. And people like you who have been attracted here and have added all your skills to the people who live here, which is
Yeah, if you'd
great.
asked me years ago when I was living in San Francisco if I'd end up in a little town
Yeah.
in northern Wisconsin, I probably would have laughed.
It's colder than the North Dakota where you came from.
And I think your contact was Mary Rice, wasn't it? I mean, no?
Well, yes, it was in a way because we went to college together
Okay.
at Carleton College, but we
Okay.
hadn't seen each other in years. But I
Okay.
came here to scout locations for my film Wild Rose,
That's right. I
Because
was
of
here when you were doing
commercial
that.
fishing,
Right.
and that's when I reconnected with Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I feel we were really lucky that you found us again.
well, and I was lucky too because I realized, I said to myself, I remember that I said, in my old age I might retire here.
Mm.
And at some point I said, why wait?
Yeah.
Well, we're lucky to have John. You
Oh.
can lean on him once in a while to do an interview, and you bring in the professional service here versus
Right.
some kid off the street. And
For
so we're
sure.
very, very fortunate
For
to have
sure.
him.
And one of these days I'm going to have time to go into the museum and look at the archives, the things you've already collected.
Well, one of the things we're doing, I wish you would hang out for a while here, but we just went through that, raising about $450,000.
And have you gotten your money?
Well, we're getting the money, but we're just about close enough. But we're starting to revamp the first floor. That's going to be the Hadlin Family Memorial
Wow.
Hall, and we're doing an exhibit there on commercial fishing now, and we're going to redo that. And then in January we start a major project, which is to renovate the basement. And that basement there, part of that money will be used to renovate it. It will be state of the art, equal to the Northern Great Lakes Visitor Center, UW Eau Claire, Superior.
Wow.
So we're gonna spend probably $120,000 in the basement.
Oh, that
there.
sounds terrific.
So,
And and thanks to people like you in this community who keep at it and do it.
Well, you were right before when you
Yeah.
said we've got a great board of directors there,
Right.
and I mean, we have a little fun with it because we are old Bayfield, but
Right.
the people that from out of Bayfield for many years got a bad rap,
Mm.
and some of these people you might as well call them Bayfield people for the love and care they put into the
Right.
work down there. So I have the greatest respect for all that group.
And of course, Jerry Phillips says without him in the Rittenhouse and so on.
Yeah, well, Jerry's been a very, very important player in
That's
the
for
community.
sure.
He's done a
For
nice
sure.
job in everything he does.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
Let's talk a little bit more about Bob's pottery,
okay.
since he's not here to talk about it himself.
Okay.
What would you say his roots in the pottery and his style and his way of working were?
Well, he believed that that the clay that pottery had to show the material from which it was formed. That is, there are some really sleek pots now that are bright colors and so on. And Bob would have said, now, if he had lived this long and had grown and changed, he might be making those bright colored pots that don't look like pottery. Mm-hmm. But his philosophy was that the pot should be an expression of the material from which it was made, and the color should reflect the lake and the sky and the ground from which the pots came. And so his pottery was never, bright colors of any kind. They were the blues and browns and greens and so on. And you can always tell the finger marks on his
You see, there's the color she's talking about.
This would be one that he would have been happy with. And notice he always finished the bottoms. Very few potters finish the bottoms of their pottery now.
I see.
They just leave them
Isn't that
flat.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
And you notice he leaves the throw marks.
Let me go in and I'm gonna get a closer look at that.
Is that one of your cherished pieces there?
Yes, well, I don't have room for any more.
So-
I have everything I have in.
So Lou, what vintage is this pot? Is this a recent one or?
No. Is there a date on there? Early on, he put the date on.
Eckels, it just says on
No,
there.
okay. No, I would say this was in the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah. And what about the smaller one?
Yeah, that too. But that's very typical of, it's a reflection of that. You can see the clay. You know this
beautiful.
is clay. And he was very fussy about his pictures. Pictures are not supposed to drip.
Oh,
And he was very fussy about handles. They had to be big enough so you could hold them with both
and
hands.
stick your fingers in
Yeah,
there.
stick your fingers in them. So he, I don't know.
What year did Bob pass anyway, for the record?
I think he's been going for 4 years, which was when?
2007?
Maybe. Don't quote me. Whoops. This was a very, very early one that he did.
Isn't that beautiful?
I'm trying to think where he did this one. I don't know if he did this one
Want
at
that
the
to stand
pottery
alone,
or
John?
not.
Yeah, pull that other one
Okay.
out.
Yeah, just
No,
said
no,
Oh, okay.
yeah, put that one in now.
That is a very early Eckels.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah,
That's got more of a sheen to it than
Yeah.
like the other ones. That
right.
is that
He
a part
does-
of his process then too?
No, he didn't make too many of the shiny ones. He liked what he called the matte glazes.
Oh, no, okay.
Most of my pottery, unfortunately, is downstairs. Oh, I have a whole basement full. If
Maybe
you
we'll
like
take
to
a
go
walk
down-
with you.
Yeah.
Oh, these have a great story. Some man came into the pottery one day, many, many years ago, and wanted some Viking mugs, and ordered Bob to make Viking mugs. And so Bob threw these and decided those looked like Viking mugs. And he didn't see the man who had ordered them, and so we made 12 dozen of these because the man had a restaurant in Duluth. He was going to use them. And then somehow the man lost touch, and so we had 12 dozen of these mugs.
Oh,
But we love them, and they were great. They're for cold drinks, and you can see the throw marks very clearly in them.
what's a throw mark exactly?
You can see how his fingers have shaped the clay.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of, and now this one you cannot see any throw, and that was early, and he was still working to make them smooth. The later pots nearly all have more obvious throw marks.
Did he ever really peak as far as his real artistic abilities went, or?
He would have grown till the day he died.
Okay.
He was always experimenting and doing more new things and trying to get better.
So it was always learning, always
Always
achieving.
learning. Right, and learning from everybody too. And learning from the environment in which he worked, which he just loved.
Yeah, they're actually very beautiful.
Yeah, I'm glad I had this one up here. But
Is
if
that
you,
picture up there one of his too? Or is that one?
actually it is.
Oh,
No,
that-
all of these, no, not that one. That's a print of a man he worked with in England. But these are all his.
He painted those?
Yes, that's Carlin Holman's, actually.
How about that picture on the thing there? Is that Dee Dee's or?
I think this is an apprentice picture.
Well, that's really nice too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that Bob would have improved it. It's okay, but it's extremely heavy. And it's okay. And it's got his glaze and the colors.
Yeah, well, you get an average guy like myself, we don't know the difference.
Right. And a lot of people like the shiny glazes.
Yeah.
And actually, to eat on, I don't like the matte glazes as dinner plates, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Then the fork makes a funny sound. And I like my plates to be shiny glazes.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Right, right.
Now, that painting behind you. Let's talk.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a landscape. And unfortunately, there's a crack in it.
When do you think Bob did that?
Oh my goodness, he did that for my sister, who had moved to a new apartment. And this is 2010, at least 40 years ago. When would that be? 50 years ago, but 2000 would be 1950, 1960 maybe.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Who did the frame for you?
He would find old frames and refinish them,
Oh, I see, okay.
because otherwise the frames are more expensive than the paintings. So
That's
he
a beautiful painting right there.
always did his own frames, yeah.
And then what about this little one in the top up here?
Yeah, that's New Mexico landscape, and he did that in New Mexico. No, we lived in New Mexico for 3 years, and both of these are New Mexico.
So that's kind of an abstraction.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
right
they're
here.
landscapes.
Landscapes, yeah. I mean,
Featuring
it's
the
sort style,
colors
a little
of-
more
of the
stylized,
Southwest.
not a natural,
No,
naturalistic interpretation of the
right,
landscape.
no.
And then what about this other one here?
That's a print, a lithograph done by a teacher of his.
So that's not Bob.
No, that's not Bob's.
But I can see why it's hanging with him, with
Right,
his
well-
work. It's similar in some ways.
Yeah, well, he was a very talented man, and Bob did lithographs also, but I didn't have one on the wall.
Yeah.
As I say, behind you is Carolyn Holman's early painting. Now she does all watercolors.
Yeah.
But when she was Bob's first apprentice, and she was a painter first also. So, yeah. The first painting he ever did is that one up at the top of the stairs. His first painting at the University of Illinois.
Well, let John get geared up. Maybe he may want to.
But if you want to see more
Yeah.
pots, there's
Yeah.
in our
Okay, so what are we looking at here, Lou?
that's a landscape with a lake. Now I don't know that might have been in New Mexico also.
Uh-huh. And Bob painted this?
Yes,
And what is the medium?
pastel.
Pastels, yeah. It looks great.
He loved painting.
Yeah.
And when we go south for the winter, that's what he would do.
So this is another,
Right, pastel.
this is is this from the same era, you think?
Yes, he did those at the same time,
Yeah.
I believe. Let me turn off that light.
No, I need the light,
Oh,
actually.
okay. Even the one on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
How's that?
No, I
No?
need them both,
Okay.
yeah. So this again is the Southwest.
Right.
Yeah. He was a fine artist.
He really was.
Yeah.
He just didn't, and the saddest time of my life was when he lay dying. And he said over and over again, I don't want to die. I have so much left to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That was, oh, here's another one of those that he did at that time. Another, and he matted them all. He knew just how to mat them. And
I like the colors.
yes, I do too.
This is pastels again? Yeah. Did he work in watercolor at all?
He did. I don't believe we have any here though.
Yeah. Now, who is this?
Herman.
And Herman was,
He was our biting dog.
everybody.
And the biggest bite was, who was the young doctor who came out of Bayfield? His wife was here. anyway, he bit her in the leg and I had to take her to the emergency room. If you can walk down here very carefully, it's...
So what do we have? Lou, why don't you stand to my right here, closer to the microphone,
Okay.
so I can... So what do we have here?
Well, these are a lot of old pots that were not sold at the time Bob died. And some of them are really masterpieces, others are just ordinary pots. And I'm trying to decide if I should let Dee Dee sell them in the pottery or if I want to keep them someplace. And I'd like to choose some for the museum, just to have one or two there.
That would be good.
Yeah, that he would be remembered by. But, he made lamps and
Oh, these are...
that one with the figures is one of my favorite pots.
This one here with the figures
Yeah.
going around the...
Right. Should I take it out so you can see the whole pot?
Yeah. Do that.
Oh, maybe. This is one of my kids' pots. Stephen did this when he was a young boy. Yeah, that's a relatively recent pot, and they did that not too long before he died.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
But he'd still be working, because this is what he loved to do. And he had made many of these too. Those are candelabra in all different sizes and with different numbers of candle holders.
Really are earth tones, aren't they?
Yes,
You were talking earlier about
right.
what his... I heard a door.
Earth tones plus the blue. He did have that beautiful blue.
Well, here's one, this picture down here.
Right. That's a teapot.
That's a teapot, right. That's a beautiful...
Right, it is. Oh, he sold so many teapots. And this was a gorgeous pot. This is a salt glaze pot. He hadn't made too many of those. And then this is one of his, whoops. Ooh.
You all right?
One of his way out pots. Trying to think, here, you can see it, it's a woman. Oops.
Ooh.
Can you see the figure?
Oh, yes. Yes, I can. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I say, he played. He was always doing new things. And who drove up?
I heard a door.
Oh, that's cracked. Oops. Well, you can,
I'm just gonna wander in here with the camera and...
Okay.
He made an amazing number of things in his lifetime, didn't he?
Oh.
You couldn't count them, could you?
And of course, so many of them sold. This
nice to see them all together here.
Yeah. And you know what? We don't know what to do with them, and I'm reluctant to let them go until I know there's no one person in the family can keep them, so I might as well.
So what do you think will happen with these?
I'll probably give them to Judy to sell.
Yeah, put in the shop.
This is one of his earliest pots. And you can tell by the way he signed his names in those days. But it's, you know, he was just learning there. But I think it's a really nice pot.
Quite different from the one behind it.
Right. And then this guy, he had two of these. And they were the warriors. I don't know where the other one is.
What was this now?
The warrior.
The warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very Asian.
I don't know
Huh?
what he had in mind when he was doing that.
That's actually kind of a mixture of styles. It's kind of a Picasso head.
Right. He was always playing, you know, he was
Yeah.
always trying new things. And this, I think, is really typical of his decoration style. It was just very loose. That was a flower pot.
Oh yeah. Would you ever have a name for his style? Or wasn't it?
Dee Dee probably could tell you. He did sgraffito. That's one name that has stuck with me. But that's when you scratch into the surface, like this pot here. That's sgraffito.
Graffito?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Or this. But then mostly just the loose brush strokes. I think you could always tell his painting background. If you see potters' work that were not fine artists first, they're very different. No less good, but different, because Bob always hung on to his painting style. And that really affected his work. You know, especially in things like this, which are like a beautiful watercolor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what do I do with them? I guess let them sell.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they'll all find a good home,
Yeah.
you know, because they'll be appreciated. That's the key. Find the person who appreciates them.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And is it hard for you to part with these?
It is, but I have a whole bunch of things in California.
Yeah.
And my house is small, and my children all have as many as they want or need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you just have to let them go, and that's what I will do.
Yeah. You can't take it with you.
No, literally and figuratively.
That's right. Well, any final words, Lou?
No, except thank you very much. And I think we were always very grateful to have settled in Bayfield, because we found the most wonderful people and more artists than you could find in any other community.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
always felt this was our home. And the only thing that drove Bob to California was the winters. And so had he lived, he would have come with me to California in the winter. But he'd have returned to make his pottery on Chequamegon Bay. My logo was made from clay on Chequamegon Bay. So, yeah. And he loved doing it every minute that he was alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, you were lucky to have a long life with him.
Oh, I was. We were married 53 years.
Yeah.
So.
No, I've forgotten. Did he die suddenly, or was it?
He had congestive heart failure.
Congestive heart failure,
Yeah.
that's what he died.
So it was relatively suddenly because
Yeah.
he didn't get sick until 2 or 3 years before he
And
died.
how old was he when he died?
He was 83.
Yeah.
83.
So he was a bit older than you then?
Yes, 7 years older.
Yeah. Okay. But that didn't matter.
No, it didn't, though I've said if I had it my life to live over again, I'd marry a man 7 years younger. Because women live longer.
Right.
And it's ridiculous that we marry older men. I met him because I wanted an older man. And I
Well,
should
it seemed
have
like a
known
good
that.
idea when you were young.
Right, right, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate your taking the time to do this, and I'll be interested in seeing the results.
Well, I'll be transferring all this to DVDs, so
Okay.
we'll give you a copy.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
That will be good.
Okay.
Good.
All right.